the premise behind this started off because back in my teenage years, I was introduced to Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and some motivational speakers back in the days where you bought CDs, and I picked them up at a boot fair. And Zig Ziglar had a talk where he said, you're born to win, but to win, you've got to prepare to win, kind of see yourself as winning, and then head on that journey. And over the years of business, I've had a number of different businesses, and success for me changed as I got older. What my vision of my success was. So in your early 20s, it's house, cars, materialism, and as you get older, that changes. So that's where harping on the electrical engineering background, the wired for success was a bit of a spin on the two words. So I'd like to welcome my guest today, which is John. John, it's amazing. I've got a full house of guests today, and today I've got a rocket man with me. Well, a rocket man turned blacksmith. So John, tell me about what you do at the moment. What's a daily business for you that you're involved in?
So I am a self-employed blacksmith, so I make bespoke pieces for people. That might be beautiful or useful or both, to nick that from somebody. And that might be anything from a keyring to a bridge. I'm not a farrier. I don't shoe horses, and I don't really make tools. It's quite specialist. So I like making beautiful things.
And you have full artistic control of that, or does somebody come to you with an idea and say, "This is what I'm after"?
I mean, one of the things that I come across a lot is that my clients have no idea what a blacksmith can do. They kind of understand the horseshoeing thing, but they really don't understand
the potential of what you can craft
in metalwork. When you talk to them a little bit, often they know more than they think. They'll understand a style or a period or something like that, and we can use that as a basis. But getting on the same page with them in terms of their language and understanding is really important. So that's quite fun at times.
People don't often think about how things are kind of put together or how they can be formed and things like that, do they?
Generally people want to install things with sky hooks and invisible stuff, so there's a little bit of practicality that has to come into this. I did actually do some lectures on a course for some gardening design students, which was basically titled how to engage a blacksmith and what to think about when you're thinking about the work from them, that dealt with exactly that sort of
thing. Does a lot of your work come from referrals from other trades and industries and things like that, or is it?
It's quite a lot of word of mouth. I do get I've got sort of two-ish main clients. One guy I'm doing a lot of work for at the moment is a company over in Kent called Deacon and Sandy's, and they do really high-end English oak furniture
and restoration of period properties and things.
Loads of big manor houses.
Very close to where I grew up. Deacon and Sandy's, they're in Bennington, and cool. I grew up in Biddenden, the next village across. Cool. So know it well.
Well, they're great to work for. The guy Mike there, who's kind of managing that, is a smashing bloke. Has helped me out really well. He's a really sympathetic client. And we look to meet clients' expectations with kind of really cool stuff. And some of the opportunities I've had through him have been really, really quite some of the best stuff I've done, actually. I do a lot of sort of almost standard handmade stuff, or gate hinges and latches and things, but every now and again, there'll be a commission from a lord and lady who want a beautiful balustrade or something like that.
Are you quite an artistic person naturally? Did that come easily to you?
Well, I think we've all got it in us. I think everybody's got art in them. I think it struggles to get out sometimes.
We get caught up in the technicalities of what we do.
I don't know whether it's just not addressed really well in schools. I think, I say that my father was an art teacher. He was a really good artist, a painter.
We think about children, the skill set of a child is to climb and explore, and then to doodle and draw and be creative. They're the kind of two skill sets. And as we get older, we kind of suppress the explorer in us and get afraid of heights, and we suppress the artist in us as well.
I went on a drawing course, not that long ago, and the fear of putting pen on paper and making a mistake is huge. And I had to really overcome that.
Do you think that's just our fear of man develops as to being judged by other people as to whether it's...
Yeah, I think so. One of the things, my dad was so good that I couldn't compete, so he was a teacher, so he kind of put me off art at a young age. But I remember him being able to sit down and draw this incredible thing in front of me for me, like, what do you want me to draw tonight, John? I say, I'd like a picture of a battleship, Dad. And he just drew this amazing thing, coming out, and you just think, well, can't compete with that. But of course, that's kind of taking away the decades of experience and skill development that
he probably wanted to pass that on to you.
He did,
Whereas, so did that affect your career choices when you came into kind of school and college?
Yeah, I think it probably did, actually. I mean, I'm not my dad. We have different. He's been gone for quite a long time, and I wish he was here now because there's so many art questions I could ask him. It would be great. But I mean, I fairly early knew that I had an interest in kind of how things worked, and I wanted to pull things apart and connect things and make them differently. I love Lego and stuff like that. So that kind of informed me into perhaps a more sciencey engineering kind of bias at school and then college.
One of the things I struggled with at school was very creative when I'm in the mood for it, and other times then I didn't go to art college or anything like that because if I wasn't in the mood, it wasn't going to happen. So why put yourself under pressure to perform when? And I think for a lot of us creatively, when you put yourself in the environment or you go for a walk in nature and get inspiration. I was talking to a guy recently that fantastic guy wants to change the world when it comes to modular buildings and creating pod houses and things like that. And I said, well, what? You look at a leaf. You've got this spine down the middle. Why don't we collect water into the middle of a leaf and have leaf-shaped buildings? I said, because it actually dissipates the heat differently. And he said, do you know what? I've never thought of that. We follow nature so many times with inspiration.
It's one of the things actually really kind of hooked me into blacksmithing was, I thought metal was cold and hard and shiny and sharp. And if you get it hot, it's none of that. And it almost becomes more organic in the way that it moves and the shapes that you create. And that surprised me. I think that kind of surprise was one of the hooks that got me to do it,
My oldest brother did his YTS scheme back in the day with a blacksmiths and a forge down in Tenterden in Kent. I don't even know if they're still about now, but he made beautiful gates and all sorts of beautifully crafted things as a young kind of 17, 18-year-old lad. But for most people, you kind of think about blacksmithing as a trade of the past. So take away the farrier, and you kind of think about Little John and Robin Hood in a blacksmith in a tent somewhere, pumping some bellows. How much has that changed over the years?
So, to be honest, we say that a Roman legionary could walk into my forge, pick up the tools and just start work.
Fantastic.
He'd be freaked out by the electric lighting and the fan that's running the fire.
2,000 years, but the foundations are
you're
still
getting
the same.
a piece of metal hot and hitting it. So yes, there's been a huge amount of development and knowledge and artistic expression and style and all sorts of stuff has developed. But I mean,
it's health and safety crept in now as well. We have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people didn't used to live very long, so blacksmiths getting problems with their lungs from the dust, may not have shown.
Weren't they also the ones that used to build the coffins and stuff like that too?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, one of the things that kind of I liked about the idea of this kind of romantic idea of a blacksmith, and believe me, it's not very romantic, it's just dirty, was this, being the centre of something, of people coming to the forge and asking for advice or saying, I've got this problem, can you help me solve it? And that might be an engineering problem, or it might be a social, personal problem. They kind of were the centre of a community.
They were at the heart of every village, weren't they?
Yeah, they kind of the worshipful company of blacksmiths. The motto is "By hammer and hand, all arts do stand." So they're puffing the fact that they were the core of kind of everything. Making the tools to make industry and all that sort of stuff.
So is that the kind of thing that you just go on a weekend course and then perfect everything else yourself, or how did that career start? What's the foundations before you opened a?
I mean, yes, you can do a day's course, and I can teach somebody the basic hammer skills within a day. They'll just need 40 years to work out how to use that to make something.
Hard thumbs.
Still going. Yeah. But I came across it. I used to work in the space industry, so I've kind of gone from, cutting edge technology to cutting bits of metal sort of technology. And I got disillusioned in that career. Needed to move. And I started doing craft courses probably as, some sort of diversionary occupational therapy almost. Yeah. I did some woodwork and some pottery and glass.
To feed that creative side of you.
Yeah, that was coming out of me there.
Work out where you fitted into the creative
completely different as well. And I did a blacksmithing weekend and came away from it laughing and whistling, and everybody noticed and said, "What were you doing?" I thought, okay, that's important. I couldn't just become a blacksmith, set up a forge and just start making stuff for people. So I had to do some training, practice, and I found a rather lovely place to practice, which is where I have.
You got a beautiful home,
which is the Rural Life Centre, the Rural Life Living Museum in Tilford, just south.
Which is almost like going back to the centre of a village. You found a community to home yourself in.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that. And obviously that environment kind of understands the blacksmith, and what they are. So yeah, I kind of feel like that's a really home.
And the nice thing for you is that they bring people to you. And as you said there about being at the centre of the community and coming to you've by finding your home, you found the people that are actually going to bring the inspiration and children and everything like that to help you.
It's surprising I get very little work out of museum visitors, but that's not really why I'm there. I mean, the museum, it's a lovely place to work. I'm involved in the education programme there, demonstrating to school kids, which is great, which is keeping the craft alive.
You're compared to the kind of TikTok generation and the YouTube that occupies so much of their attention. Yeah, you're just like a polar opposite. It's like transforming them back 2,000 years.
It's really real. It's fundamental stuff that's happening in front of them, and to take a stereotype, get a young child coming out of South London from a tower block. Yeah. They haven't seen a naked flame. Yeah. The parents don't.
And immense heat as well. Yeah.
And they just have no idea. So they're sat there and they're absolutely, transfixed by this almost magic that's happening in front of them. And I can, excite them with that, but also inform them a little bit about what's going on. So it isn't magic; it's a skill and it's a learned thing.
And it shows them the potential that they can learn to do anything as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When kids can't see things, they can't aspire or move towards them.
I think that's one thing that we've lost to an extent in education at times. We've lost that, both of us come from an engineering background, and a large part of what you learn was passed on to you by other people working in the same industry. The small skills, even as a tradesman, if your van got broken into, it wasn't about the power tools going. Yes, that's frustrating. I had a Yankee screwdriver and a nail puller for lifting floorboards that were 30, 40 years old, but they were things that the right tool for the right job made your life easier.
Yeah. I think in schools, funding is an issue. I've got this phrase, I'm not quite sure where it's come from. It's called aspiring to mediocrity. Okay, and that's kind of putting people in boxes. And I understand that we want to try and improve the lower performance bit of a normal graph of, not very good to normal to excellent. But it seems to me that when you kind of get rid of that underperforming bit, you tend to box people in and you lose that exceptional bit as well. So it's difficult when costs are involved as well. And I mean, blacksmithing used to be taught in agricultural colleges,
right?
And it's almost gone just because of the costs. So there are several centres that do teach it at sort of sixth form.
So is that still at places like Hadlow in Kent and agricultural colleges like that?
The big place is the Hereford, used to be the Hereford Agricultural College, National School of Blacksmithing, but Plumpton College.
I know Plumpton well.
Okay, so other people have got, there's a few little areas still there keeping it alive.
That's fantastic, really, isn't it? Because these skill sets, once they disappear, you really have lost a skill set. And it's not just blacksmithing, but it's learning how to weld, learning how to manipulate things, learning how to... I had a gentleman fit a kitchen for me a decade or so ago, and his mathematics skills weren't particularly good. So the kitchen that he fitted just didn't fit nicely. But when I was at secondary school, we had a young lad that wasn't a performer when it came to education. He was the outlier of the group. Back in the day, you would have called him a dunce. It's not a particularly pleasant term, but he loved electronics. And because he loved electronics, he started to understand about resistor values and things like this that started to put things in context, and then he realised he had to study a bit harder in science and learn a little bit of maths. And so he left with above average grades, and now runs an IT company in Kent with about 30 staff working for him. But he needed that little bit of inspiration that actually, I've got to pay attention to some of this, and I've got to be able to perform in some areas to achieve what I want to achieve.
Yeah, and I get kids, teachers come in, mostly late primary school age, come in for the demos. And teacher will come in and say, okay, we need to be a bit careful of John there.
Yeah.
He can be a bit disruptive. Yeah. I'm like, okay, put John on the front row. And they're like, what? No.
Let's get the gobby kid in the front row and deal with him first.
I can deal with him. Don't worry about it, okay? And Johnny just doesn't fit into the normal academic sort of style of classroom teaching. He maybe needs a bit more of a vocational, hands-on approach. And he sat there transfixed.
Because our technical colleges are disappearing. Adult education courses, all the things that our generation were able to top up your education once you'd left school while you were still earning money. Sadly, a lot of those skills are leaving.
It feels like there are a lot of things that took a lot of effort are really disappearing quite quickly.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm really concerned with in a whole load of areas, actually.
And you do quite a lot of giving back by teaching and trying to inspire others, don't you?
Yes. So the educational programme is quite important to me at the museum. And the museum itself is a wonderful place. It's not a bad office.
Yeah.
It's surrounded by trees.
Lovely place to be on a nice summer's day like today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I poked my head up above the parapet about 10 years ago and had it well and truly shot off when I became a trustee there. So
one of the things I learnt with charities is change has to be very gradual in charities.
Yeah, it does. And in the museum sector, it's not a massively commercial environment.
No.
Although it's having to become more competent and professional. There have been a few challenges over the last few years that we've had to get through.
Sleepless nights and hair being pulled.
Yeah. It's been very interesting. But it is a worthwhile thing to do. So we've enjoyed it.
So the name of where you're working from?
That's the Rural Life Living Museum, and that's in Tilford, just south of Farnham.
So that's something people can find online and see a little bit more about. And they have open days and events where you can take the family along.
We're open 7 days a week at the moment, which is great. And there's a whole events programme, things like the Steam Rally and Fire Engine Day, and we've got a garden show coming up in June.
So a real family environment to come down, see what you're doing and learn a little bit about what you're doing there. But your journey didn't start with ironmongery and running a forge and things like that, did it?
No.
What led us to that?
I kind of fell into further education, I suppose. I guess I was expected to do so by my parents, and I scraped through my A-levels and managed to get a place at Plymouth Polytechnic back in the day, studying communications engineering. I'd always been interested a little bit in kind of electronics and radio and stuff, so that seemed to be the choice for me. And there was a course on that which was all about broadcast engineering. So I fancy myself as an outside broadcast guy with a camera at Wimbledon or something, Unfortunately, by the time I got to the second year, that course had been canned. So I ended up doing a lot of radio engineering and stuff like that. We did some satellite engineering, strangely enough. And I came away finally having done a tortuous path through a bit of a degree, then an HND, and then finishing up my degree. And I got a job in Guildford with a little company that spawned out of the university called Surrey Satellite Technology Limited.
Not so little company now, is it?
Not anymore, no. I mean, they've had fantastic success. The track record is really impressive.
Now, Surrey Research Park as a whole is a phenomenal incubator of ideas. Absolutely. All sorts of biosciences and technology. I know that there was a client there we had many years ago that was involved in developing the red-eye technology for cameras, which then got sold on to Nikon. And you think, it's a university students come up with an idea. Had some support from the university, some backing to then take something and the company disappears, but the technology gets acquired by high street brands.
A huge amount. I mean, there's massive amounts of funding going into those spin-offs now. SSTL was quite an early one, so it's late 80s.
You'd never put Surrey as kind of the heart of satellite technology in the UK.
Bizarre, although actually we were pretty well placed because of sort of transport networks and stuff for the work that we were doing. which was a lot about technology transfer to emerging space nations. So my first project that I managed was the first Algerian national spacecraft, and the first spacecraft flown in a disaster monitoring constellation. So there was an international conglomerate, kind of the nucleus at Surrey, people that we knew, looking at being able to image any place on the Earth's surface within a day.
Goodness
at a level where you'd be able to see useful information in the aftermath of flooding or an earthquake or fires or whatever.
So you could kind of do the disaster assessment within kind of 24 hours to an accurate level as to what resources we need and who to call in.
Absolutely.
So that was driving real change, and the technology and the projects you're involved in, you kind of sleep a little.
It was amazing. I mean, as a young man, just to be in that environment and meet astronauts, and I was lucky to go and see a rocket launch, but working internationally with incredibly talented, brilliant, sort of genius level people was amazing. It was amazing.
You ever feel almost like I'm winging it here, and you've got that imposter syndrome that how the hell did I get in this room with this bunch of boffins?
3 months into working there, I was building stuff that was going on a satellite into space, and I was just sweating the whole time. In fact, I had to wear two pairs of gloves to make sure I didn't sweat on the spacecraft and corrode it.
Because spacecraft are a little bit like aircraft in the fact that there's complete traceability to every single component. You work in a kind of clean environment to make sure that there's no bolts and nuts left over. Unlike me, when I disassemble something, I'm sure the engineer didn't need that many nuts and bolts in there because there was a couple left over. So it's a very accurate industry to work in, a lot of attention to detail.
Yes, it is. You're right. There's a lot of kind of international standards that push quality, which you can really understand in sort of manned spaceflight and stuff like that. You've got to be really careful. Okay, things have got to work. But that's sort of spilled over into the commercial world, where a large communication satellite can be 100 million or more pounds. In fact, quite a lot more now, I imagine. So the financial risk involved, something going wrong, is huge. So
I was shocked at the number of communication satellites we have actually in orbit at any one point now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of stuff up there, but one of the things that always comes up is this, Armageddon of a chain reaction of something exploding and then taking out whole waves of satellites. And whilst that's not a thing that people don't think about, space is really big. Okay, there's a lot of room. You just need to be careful about it.
So you ended up, starting off in communications. You kind of, your CPD becomes, there's a whole nother, pardon the pun, but universe of application and environmental factors, not just about communication. To set up an antenna and do radio waves for TV broadcasts is one set of science, but your application becomes a totally different area of research and knowledge. And it's not just a case of, there's a lot that you can find interesting in that industry, isn't there? Rabbit holes to go down and research and events and different things happening around the globe, different countries.
It's interesting you mentioned antennas, because that's what I ended up doing. I ended up being an antenna designer. I kind of made a bit of a career of doing things other people didn't want to do. Okay, so I was surrounded by these technical geniuses, and I always found myself a little bit wanting against them, against their amazing skill. So I tended to do the things people didn't want to do, and I ended up in antenna design. That helped me get my master's degree, which was really lovely. But really, I never really was a fantastic engineer, and I kind of found my forte, if you like, when I started to get into management. So my mentor just sort of said, why don't you try this? And I found that I could kind of do some translation from those genius technical people into perhaps more of the real world of commerce and organisation.
Those kind of engineers, and as one, we speak engineer and we speak geek, as much as anything. And there's lots of lovely technical terms. There's lots of baffling people with bullshit that goes on. And the average layperson in an office manager, salespeople, the marketing team, all of those, engineers aren't great at communicating with, are they?
They're not. They're not less than.
But that makes management a challenge as well.
It does. And there's simple things like, how long is your piece of work going to take? It's going to take as long as it takes.
Yep.
That's fine from a technical standpoint, but obviously in the commercial environment, it's not an answer you want to hear.
This project's got to be going out the door in 2 weeks' time. You need to be finished.
When you're launching a satellite, you've kind of got like an important date to meet, okay? Especially when we were sharing launches with other larger kind of manufacturers.
So I imagine launching a rocket or anything into space is a bit like phoning up the office at Heathrow and saying, right, I need a runway at 10 o'clock on Friday, and they're like, well, we've got a slot at 10:30, take it, or there's somebody else in your slot.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It might be a bit like DPD as well. You might say, actually, I've got this thing, I want to get to this place. Is there anybody out there that can do that for me on this date? And we did a lot of work with the Russians.
Where do you launch a satellite from?
Well, there's
somebody's backyard.
There's a couple of key places. The best place to do it is from somewhere around near the equator because you don't need as much energy. But having said that, the launch of my satellite.
So then you've actually got to move a piece of equipment from Surrey in a warehouse or industrial unit to
Kourou in South America, on the north coast of South America.
Crikey. And all the technical team to go there with it.
Support equipment, test equipment, all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah.
So that's not like organising, a trip down to the pub with your mates, is it? There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, absolutely. We launched Alsat-1, the Algerian satellite, from the north of Russia. So halfway between Moscow and Murmansk is a place that used to be a super secret kind of ICBM development site. And some of my colleagues were some of the first Westerners to actually go there. So it was a bit like James Bond, We had our satellite delivered in the middle of winter, so it's snowing and there's all the arc lights and Russian guys running around with big shapkas and guns and big wheels on trucks rolling past, and then this Antonov lands and
character building stuff.
And it was really good fun. It's
so you've had to learn to deal with an awful lot of people, an awful lot of different characters, and an awful lot of different priorities at times as well. I suppose from country to country, you've got the politics of people management, so many different things that you're trying to juggle in the way that relationships,
cultural approaches to things are very different, and kind of in-depth experience in how to deal with different cultures and different people. So I learned a lot about the Russians. I mean, obviously, maybe now there's less of an opportunity for me ever to be able to use that.
Be back into the country.
Because, some of the guys I met, the engineers, they're just normal people. They don't get involved. They suffer because of the politics. But, that was a shame. But I had great fun out there. I spent quite a lot of time out there. And it was, like the Wild West, really.
And so a job that could take you anywhere in the world that you never really foresaw when you started out in communications.
No, I thought I would probably just be, Alan, was with Nokia, and actually my first job I was offered was to go and install base station equipment for mobile phones. And it only happened that the satellite company offered me a place to go to work rather than being sent all the way around.
You'll have to ask Alan about his trips around the world, because again, he's been to Australia, various other countries that he's worked in, and I think that's the lovely thing for me about engineering is you can pick up a skill set. You could be that naughty boy that stands at the front of the class watching you in the forge, become inspired, learn a skill set, and once you've got the foundations of knowledge of that, how you apply it. As an electrical engineer, I've worked on luxury yachts, I've worked in the tallest skyscrapers in London, but the foundation of knowledge is the same, and how your career can take the twists and turns. But if you've got a basic skill or trade or knowledge, it's up to you where your career takes you.
It is, and being open to opportunity as well. Fortune favours those who are ready for it. And yes, I've had some amazing opportunities, and some of them could have just passed me by. Sometimes you have to kind of jump and take things with both hands, don't you?
So that kind of move into management for a lot of engineers is quite a daunting task, because you don't feel yourself as that kind of pen pusher, bean counter kind of white collar person. And then there's the engineers that think you're the turncoat moving into management. Absolutely. And you're now disconnected from the gang. You were one of us now, John. You're up there in the ivory tower. So how did that transition happen?
I started off really with some simple systems engineering, so looking at a subsystem on a spacecraft and kind of managing that.
So small teams, project managing.
Yeah, it's all project-based stuff. That's the kind of fundamentals of how I see the world, I guess, it's all just a big series of projects. But yeah, I found out fairly quickly that my kind of personal relationships with people and my communication skills in a verbal sense, interrelational stuff, was quite good. So I'd kind of got quite a good network within the company, which I started using.
Yeah.
That was fairly obvious. So when I was offered the first project as a like £8 million project to run, I was sat there going, "Wow, okay, somebody thinks I can do this."
So did you have a mentor or someone that was kind of had that arm around you too?
Yeah, a wonderful friend of mine, Mark Allery, hired me into the industry because he was a canoeist, and that's one of those random things. He'd read an article in a magazine written by my project supervisor at university, So when my CV landed on his desk, he said, "Oh, I recognise that name. Yeah, let's talk to this guy." And he wanted to climb, and I was a climber. So that kind of thing gets you into this. Yeah.
We talk about networking earlier, and the best jobs are not always ones that are advertised. They're the ones that come about from having a trusted. People like Richard Branson aren't great at the technical stuff, but they're good at bringing together a team of people that share people's vision.
It's that understanding, isn't it, of how about people, about their differences and their skills and weaknesses, and understanding how to kind of fit those together in a jigsaw and make it better than the sum of its parts. That's something I've always been, really I believe in. You can take somebody who is the best at whatever it is. They're not going to be very good at something else. And if you want to use them as the best that there is in that section, you've got to fill in behind them somehow to make everything work. So
creative people generally need someone to come along and the ideas and the entrepreneurs need a good PA that's going to mop up and do the detail.
Somebody who is actually going to help them. Somebody, I'd like to use the word facilitator really rather than manager, because it's what you're doing. You're facilitating somebody to succeed. Yeah. And I've always been interested in things succeeding, and that means being interested in people succeeding. Yeah. So at the museum at the moment, we've got great staff, and we've had great staff come from virtually no experience, and they've been well trained by the director and then sent off to other better jobs. And I think that's just great. You borrow them for a bit, do the best you can with them.
Nobody's with us for a lifetime. No. And there's an expression about, if I invest in my staff, they're going to leave. Yeah. Well, if you don't invest in them, you're left with a load of staff absolutely. that are problems and challenges. Yeah,
absolutely.
So every manager you've had in your work life has been a dream to work for, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't like lying. No, I mean, different people have different skills. They push, some pull, whatever it is. And really, I kind of left the space industry because I didn't really have, I guess, the maturity and the gravitas to be able to implement the change within the organisation that I wanted to. Yeah. So I got very frustrated. And that was really what.
And sometimes that politics or one person can have a massive influence within an organisation, even if that's not the person at the top of the tree. The managing director sometimes can be quite, especially fast growth companies. The kind of board and chairman of an organisation can be quite a distance from an R&D team, for example, and not have that day-to-day interaction with them. So sometimes a regional manager or especially we've got international firms, you've got a UK manager that can flavour the whole company based on their persona.
You create a culture, don't you? I mean, love Nigel Bottrell's slides on staff. Start one, it's not about you, and then the second one is it's all about you. Yeah. And a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people, but then how many times have you seen technical people, good technical people, being promoted into management tasks that they are not trained or equipped for?
Well, that's one of the big challenges because so you start that project management role, or the project management part of keeping the different bits of the project arriving on time might be something that comes naturally to you as an engineer. So all of a sudden you've gone from managing the team that are doing this to a couple of other teams that are bolting on, and they're kind of allied things, and you might have known those people. So all of a sudden, actually now instead of managing a team of 5, I've got 15, 20, 30 people. But then someone hands you a P&L and said, actually, now you're responsible for the budget as a manager. And you're responsible for holiday time and hiring, and you've got no experience of those areas.
Yeah. Where'd you go? I did a 2-day course at the Institute of Electrical Engineers in London to teach me how to be a project manager, and that had nothing to do with staff at all. So, you know, it's great if you've got the opportunity to pick that up. We had brilliant HR, you know, we had an absolutely fantastic HR director who was just absolutely marvellous, who helped me with some of that. And I didn't have to do the hiring and firing, and I could make some opinions and put my oar in, but it wasn't my bag. But that also allowed me to be sort of third axis on people as well. Because if I, as a project manager, you know, they have to deliver for me, into the company, but I'm not necessarily in charge of their job, and their pay and their performance and stuff. So I've got a little off to the side where they can have a conversation with me about that that they might not be able to have with their line manager. So then you
can become the confident, the mentor, and the advocate for them.
That's quite an interesting thing, and I really enjoyed that. With some successes and some
so
not so good
which
stuff.
skills do you think you took from that space engineering into your blacksmithing now?
Do you know what? It's difficult to tell. The relationships with the customers, actually. I got to a point in management in the space industry where I was involved in setting up projects and sales and development and stuff like that. And I think that ability to understand the danger of bullshit and the weight of getting a relationship with your client, you know, just being there, not selling, just creating a relationship and trust. The
Spanish have a fantastic way of doing business. That, you know, let's meet for a coffee, and, you know, generally we have a conversation about family and life and all this, and then the business is the 20% at the end of the conversation. And, you know, the fact we're having the business conversation means that we already know we're in the ballpark. We've just got some detail to drive out.
Absolutely, and there's a link straight away, and I get that with 1 or 2 clients a year. It's fab, and often they will say, okay, I'm saying, what is it that you want? They say, well, actually, we want you to do something for us. And that, of course, gets really scary. But because you've got that understanding relationship with them, I've never had something where somebody said, oh, I'm really sorry, I don't like that. Because I'm involving them in the process. We're going through it.
It's all about asking intelligent questions and then listening.
Not assuming anything, you know, and then trying and measuring as well. So they'll say, well, will you do me drawings? And I say, well, my drawings they're not great, you know, I'm not a great drawer. It's not a skill that I have, but I can make you a sample so you can feel what it is that you might get. And that really helps that.
It's really interesting. I had a meeting with a client recently, an international business that have got a UK dealership, for want of a better expression, and they went and did a proposal. And I said, we've had 3 or 4 other companies give us proposals, but you're the only one who actually addressed what we asked for. It's a bit more money than we were expecting, but literally you did addressed every single thing that we've asked for. Well, that's sales. That's really easy, because you listen, and then you sell somebody something for about just before it's too painful for them to say no. But that skill as an engineer it's like, you know, creating things is the easy part. Understanding what they want is the skill set.
I think you know, let's get into rash generalisations here. Engineers like to understand that, you know, you switch a switch and a light comes on. But humans and emotions don't do that as such. We've got some ways of helping those things along, but you've got to understand those differences. And, you know, I struggle with that even now. I mean, I'm not really an engineer, I guess, as such anymore, but I still, you know, struggle with stuff that I wish that I could control. I can't.
That's one of the big challenges for engineers in any other form of life, because you start to everything's cause and effect. What's gone wrong here? Why is that happening? How do I stop that happening again? How do we break it down and diagnose? I do it in relationships, you do it in business, and it's that skill set that you learned very early on. And you're starting to adopt a little bit more of that kind of fault finding mode with some of the things you're starting to go forward and do again. You're looking to start helping people within engineering businesses and things like that again, aren't you?
So So I've had this thing where I've been basically helping people with a business, be it at the museum or whatever, for about 10 years. And it's been taking up a lot of my time, which has been financially not great. It's a really worthwhile thing to do.
Yeah.
But I've got to be a bit more clever than that now.
You have to have a bit of a balance in life.
So I had some conversations. People drop into the Forge. It's a lovely place. People do come and talk about their problems. I don't know what it is. It just seems to happen over the anvil.
Cup of tea you have.
Cup of tea over the anvil, and just unload what you have. And lots of people are struggling, struggling with their lack of knowledge, specific knowledge in fields. Lots of kind of entrepreneurial people who are brilliant at what they do, and as we know, sometimes aren't so good at the business hygiene stuff or the processes or whatever. And I think that I can be of help to people just to try and backfill some of that, or maybe do some guiding. I had a lovely day out with an old colleague of mine where we did some team building with an up-and-coming tech company, which was awesome. That really got me interested, and I thought, I can do these things. I know how to do these things, and it is time for me to do it. The old fingers around the hammer and the tongs are starting to get a little bit achy in the evenings.
The old arthritis starting to set in, and warm them in front of the fire. You'll be fine. I don't want to be
that broken, hunchbacked guy, So
I thought they were recruiting for Notre Dame if you wanted
absolutely.
to.
Well, yes, no, but so I have this desire to help people out. I'm a sucker for running towards a problem. So I'd like to kind of turn that into a bit of a business. I've got a good network within the satellite industry. Lots of the people I worked with now run their own businesses or are senior in other businesses. And that might hope to address some of the credibility things that I'm going to need to build, because they kind of know me and know what I can do.
You've got a string of letters after your name as long as me.
So I'm a bit anti-establishment with that. So I like people to understand when and when not to follow the norm. So Alan mentioned in his thing, he recertified as a Prince practitioner. Prince is really good. It's an interesting communications tool. It will not make you have a successful project. You need to have context and knowledge around that. And actually during lockdown, I was looking at a post from somewhere in France, I think it might have been part of Alcatel, who said, we've just used our concurrent design facility to design a boat for the Ariane's Cup, which is this lovely sailing race that they do with all the little bits in the industry. Concurrent design facility, that sounds interesting. What's that? So I sent out a few emails, and it turns out there's just a new name for something that we were doing at SSTL back in the day, which is, do you know what? You don't follow one method. You take bits that work in
everything's
places,
a toolkit,
and work it all out, put some effort in, and you get results.
I did a course in business improvement many years ago, which kind of moved a lot of the Six Sigma stuff, that did all of the different 5S's and all the different models of things that we kind of adopt. And one of the guys on the course literally is like, I work with small businesses, and we're going to run in there and I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm like, first of all, there's overwhelm.
Yeah.
The first business he went into, you're just like, oh my goodness me. So you can tell someone's been on a course, they want to implement everything.
Yes.
And with a lot of businesses, you learn very quickly that you've got to pick the right time and the right order.
Yeah.
And a bit like artificial intelligence. At the moment, I was speaking a couple of days ago to an artificial intelligence consultant, and I said, implementing the most boring thing with artificial intelligence, for example, matching purchase orders with invoices. Does a purchase order value, number, quantity, date, and everything match the invoice perfectly? One of the most boring things that you can automate. But once you've got the team's trust with that, then we can automate something bigger, and then we can do something bigger, and then we can do something bigger. But you don't go and try and fix the biggest problem in a business straight away, because you've got to build that team trust.
Absolutely.
And people's trust of technology as well.
And you've got to learn to use the tool.
Yeah.
So Chat GPT is garbage in, garbage out. So you can teach it to be wrong. And I'd like people to have enough context and knowledge and experience or guidance around a problem to be able to know when you can do that and when it's not good to do that. Because, in the world of communications, I think we know that people can see ChatGPT answers, and you think, ChatGPT, that's not what I'm getting. I'm getting somebody who can use AI.
And with a team of engineers, we've kind of, that credibility is important. We talked about titles and post-nominals, and there's a posh way. And I've always thought to myself, the reason it's on my business card is not to boast that I've got half a dozen sets of letters after my name. But what it does mean is to another professional, means that I've worked bloody hard for something.
Yeah.
You know, you might not know what they relate to.
Yeah.
You know, it might be the best dishwasher in the world. But, you know, it's a thing that, you know, I've spent time, dedication and energy to achieve a standard in my professional being. And there's a ton of times where the most successful conversations in my working career have been getting a packet of chocolate hobnobs out of my briefcase, taking the tie off, having a cup of tea with somebody.
But I'm a chartered engineer. But that has influence, not because I'm a blacksmith, but actually rather because I'm a blacksmith with a chartered engineering. You know, so I deal with clients, you know, high disposable incomes, they're highly qualified, highly professional people, and sometimes they'll see that and go, oh, okay. What's that?
What's the backstory? And it starts to a conversation.
Absolutely. It's an in.
So if I was sat here across the table from you as a new young engineer that's moving into management, what kind of advice would you be giving me? What would your first piece of fatherly arm around the shoulder be for somebody that's moving into management? Stumped you now.
Well, I mean, there is just so much. There's just so much. I think you need to talk about effort. For me, management is about effort. You know, you need to spend time. You need to create relationships. I'm not sure that you need to know everything about what it is you're managing. I had a really superb manager who came in from outside, managed through the numbers. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That took a huge amount of effort. But I would just say things like, don't believe what you read in books. Okay, I think that's pretty good for everybody. Don't fall foul of the traps. Think about how you wish to conduct yourself. There was something recently in the news, on the TV, sorry, it was an advert, I think it was a cruise ship, and the CEO, the startup of this cruise ship said, you know, there are 3 things I like to do. I like to have my staff be kind, be honest, and work hard. And I'm thinking,
so lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like people to pull people, not push them. You know, show them where you're going. Don't ever expect somebody to do something that you wouldn't be prepared to do. You might not be able to do it. You know, hopefully you're going to surround yourself with a team of incredible people that can be much better at whatever it is they're doing than you're doing, that better than you. And it's just about putting yourself in a situation to help them shine.
Building those relationships isn't done in those reviews and those moments of management paperwork, is it?
It's not, no. And sometimes the formality really gets the better of us. I mean, I think we probably all sat in, you know, annual reviews where we're like cringing and going, "What you want me to do? 3 things for next year? I just want to get on my job, you know." And I think an understanding and that which is born from time. You spend time with people to try and understand what their motivators are, and that's not, you know, we need highly motivated staff. It's like, yeah, okay, but you know, what turns you on? Why do you want to come to work? I'd like to have people have a better time at work. I had an amazing time at work when I started. It was just like being in a science fiction film. It was awesome, and we slept under our desks and worked stupid hours. And created everything, nothing, all of those cliches.
And that wasn't about the pay packet?
No, nothing about it. I didn't even think about money for a long time. Probably meant that I had enough, right?
Yeah. But isn't that one of the things that if we're stingy as an employer or we're penny pinching, we're actually stifling creativity?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even one of the things I do with my clients when we take someone on is we invoice in advance, paid on a direct debit on the first day of the month, and that means that I'm not worried about paying the bills. It's a case of I can spend my time and energy and devotion on focusing on you.
There's a respect thing with that as well, isn't there? If you can't kind of pay people on time, just like saying, well, actually, we don't really care about you. So there's a whole heap of opportunities like that.
So if we move the financial reward out of the way, then all the other motivations that people have got becomes the drivers for them.
Yeah. So you're taking the brakes off, aren't you?
You've met some interesting characters in your career, haven't you?
I have. Yeah. A few come to mind. So somebody who's in the news at the moment.
Great leader.
Well, do you know what? I met him at a party he threw in Utah. We went to a small satellites conference.
So this was Elon Musk.
This is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And Elon was about to buy a large stake in SSTL.
Yeah.
This was before he started SpaceX. So he was looking around in the space industry, trying to work out what people did, saw SSTL as this kind of your young upstart, right up his street, disruptive technology, taking on the big boys, that kind of thing. Had a good relationship with the senior management. And went to a conference in Utah. And Elon came up to me and said, "Oh, hi, you're John, aren't you? Hi, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Crikey, I know who this guy is.
What's he want with me?"
Yeah, exactly. And he was doing the whole. It's like the charisma off the chart. The sun has turned on, and he's there. He's with you, 100% interested in you. We talked about all sorts of stuff. It was great, the salmon, whatever it was, And his inspiration, his way out, kind of technical innovation, and which in my mind would lead to massive social change. This is all right from where I stood. Those are the right things to talk about at the time. And he just came off as this sort of wonderful.
So you were on the bus, the conversations there, and it's like, I'm following this guy. It's so inspired me.
I've met this guy. He's just fantastic. And he's talking about all these great technologies and all this sort of stuff. And perhaps not the same guys we have today, which is a real shame. Because
who you rub shoulders with has a massive effect on your motivation, has a massive effect on your management style, and over time that can change. I know someone said to me early on, if you go into business with a white suit, you're pure, you're devoted to your cause and stuff like that, it's a bit like crawling around a coal bunker. There's a lot that's going to brush off on you over time, and other people's priorities start to creep in, don't they?
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a difficult time at the moment as well because everybody's under scrutiny. Any big figure's under scrutiny. So it's kind of like music when we were kids. You listen to the radio and you hear whoever it was, and you know nothing about them. You just listen to the music and enjoy it and think that's really good, and it's great music. It's only when you start reading the bunk, the NME, that you suddenly realise these guys are like,
doing what at the weekends?
Whatever, don't want anything to do with that. And it kind of sours it. So Elon's made some interesting choices. He's gone down
who he's aligned himself with.
But, he was a guy who expected a huge amount. He didn't want to fail. He wanted to push things on. And that was hard. I think that was
so. He made some announcements on Twitter today about SpaceX and the kind of future of it, which I think will be you don't come that far to ditch it a little bit of a tiff, do you?
To be honest with you, I really don't know. I don't know where he's going at the moment. I can't. There's an awful lot of people around the world at the moment. I can't see what the plan is. Be that him or his current adversary. I don't see what the plan is, and that's a shame because he was a man with a big plan. And we need people like that, just without
it strikes me,
difficulties.
Harping back to the eras of Brunel, the great engineers of our time, the Stephenson rocket, all of these great innovations, and we've had a massive drive in technological advancement, but there's a lot of other areas of our life we haven't had the same innovation. And there's a massive opportunity for people that do want to, change the world and come up with new ideas. And there's a Oxford. It's got the British Library. You can take an idea into the British Library. They've got an incubator for small businesses where you can create packaging and signage and photography and 3D print. And when you started out in engineering, could you imagine just hitting print and a 3D part coming out, and we can actually test whether this is going to work before sending it off to be machined? And so we've actually got the ability now to create faster and bigger and bolder than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great. I mean, that's fantastic. The informative elements of our kind of internet and social media and all that sort of thing are without fault. I mean, amazing, absolutely amazing. It just always is a different side, isn't it?
It's the yin and the yang from the Blacksmith
and to be able to navigate those situations. There are traps that people can fall into. It seems to be very easy to get people to do things that they really ought not to do. And I think sometimes the influences that we see that are in people's faces are not useful. I think kind of like the reality side of the reality TV thing that features back into project management. I'm not too comfortable about some of the role models that are set. So I'd like to just inform people that that's not how you have to do that. You use your own integrity and credibility to do something different and make changes for good.
So as we kind of wrap things up and bring things to a close, going forward, we've still got the Blacksmith and the forge that are running as a busy business. People can come down and see you and see what's involved in that. But what does success look like for you going forward? You've had an amazing career. You've done some amazing projects, some things that you can really sit there and look back and things and say, do you know what? I've had a great life, really interesting time. What does success look like now, seeing as you've achieved so much?
So I've got a few different things where I could say, so I kind of have boxes in my life. I have different things that I try and deal with, and when things get out of the box, it's a bit difficult. And if there's too many boxes with too many things out, that's really difficult. So the finance thing is an issue for me. I've never been massively motivated by money or stuff or cars, houses, whatever. But I need to have enough. I need to be able to provide for myself as I'm getting older. So that's a success thing. I need to be. I'd like to be comfortable at this age of life. Got maybe 15, 20 years left working, maybe longer, depending on how the pension age goes. But I need to think about my future. But in terms of other success, for me, helping / teaching is a way of providing legacy to people. And if you look back
that
at
knowledge transfer
you've helped, that would be something I would be able to be proud of. And say, that's a success. I helped that person with that.
And you watch other people's success, and I think that's one of the things you probably picked up from your father, that the actual teaching and the transfer of knowledge is what helps another generation to go on and achieve their own successes going forward.
And I'd just like to have everybody have a little bit better time at work. That's what it is.
Fantastic. John, you've been a fantastic guest, and thank you for appearing on this episode of Wired for Success.
Thanks, Jamie.
Take care.